Against the Gods. Chapter number 2100, destroys the star. Stepped into the fog sea edge, the white elm stopped the footsteps with his accompanying knight. Gradually strong abyss dust blows, but, bites to extinguish their life vitality and spirit sense. Starts. The white elm looks at the front, ordered desolately. Things have gotten to this point, does not have the escape route. The desert westerly wind grasps that deep cool stone from fog sovereign, slightly one clenches teeth, fiercely crumb. A light sound, collapse of debris in his hands, ye open some thin grey fog. The white elm knits the brows slightly, his complexion tranquil cold and resolute, spirit sense has released actually in a big way. But in the disintegration of deep cool stone with the desert westerly wind hand, he does not have the sensation to any soul aura. As if, that radically is one piece the ordinary deep cool stone. Fact, indeed so. The desert westerly wind has actually kneed down, shouted to yell with painful voiced sound. Profound desert realm king desert westerly wind, seeks an audience fog sovereign. His voiced sound radiates to the distant place, was actually hindered by abyss dust layer upon layer, until dissipates completely, has not gotten any response. The white elm slanting eye, look that scattered to that in place deep cool stone debris, suddenly a cold laugh, hey. Profound desert realm king, it seems like you were played, that is only the common deep cool stone, without the embodiment tiny bit soul news, how possibly really. Quote. His voiced sound has not fallen, sky is steep, the surroundings resound the losing one's voice startled roar. The white elm turns the head to look fiercely to the front, gradually receives to congeal in him, by the mapping a set grey pupil, he was gradually seen a tumbling surges, straight vine horizon huge grey fog. Fog in fast spreads, tumbles forward, is getting more and more near to them, gradually occupies their almost all fields of vision, is swallowing originally the gloomy few world bright light. Quote. Quote. The white elm that resolute cold solemn facial expression is cracked piece by piece. This is he, top abyss night has never seen startling world marvelous sight. But makes him truly shocking, what even is nearly panic-stricken is. Present, unexpectedly seriously and that obviously preposterous rumor. Exactly the same. Fog, sovereign, huge of fog sea, looks over the history also to be able it to travel across from no one. But that does not have the soul or a deep cool stone obviously, how to make him induce in this boundless fog sea. How he is, in this short several breaths then comes to in before. The billowing grey fog has impended in an instant, as far as eyes can reach, was defeated several hundred li 0.5 kilometers space. Constriction that is in sole possession, only may be rich abyss dust, annihilated unknown to think that thoroughly it, decided does by the gloomy smog false, recognized firmly. The close fissure blasts out in the pupil of white elm fast. He has not seen fog sovereign, merely as the dust and fog of this trundle, then destroys assuredly extinguished his all with proudly, as well as defends stubbornly the life the basic cognition. A pair of grey eye pupil opens above the deep cool fog slowly, belongs to fog sovereign voiced sound to fill the world. Desert westerly wind, what matter has an audience with this sovereign? The desert westerly wind whole body becomes tender, trembling sound saying, none a small king disturbs fog sovereign to sleep soundly intentionally, is pure landlord night has the matter to see right in front of one fog sovereign. The short several words, he almost exhausts all wills. Two sides, is terrifying that he cannot provoke exists, he is forced to clamp in the middle, only feels the gut's broken soul crack. Quote. Quote. White elm has not spoken immediately, glances trembling to swing is unable to stop for a very long time. Pure land. He, these two are most supreme in abyss world, most sacred phrase, brings to bring in the fog sovereign mouth contemptuous that no matter what who can recognize, that clearly is this world most pickles the za dirty place, is actually called pure land indeed, is how pitiful, is how laughable. This startled the word of the world to shock all approaching profound practitioner, punctured the abyss night soul ruthlessly, let in his heart's surprised change to the endless anger instantaneously. Because this is to offending of pure land, is to blaspheming that he believes. Shut up. White Elm, an explosive shout, in his hand white glow flashes, a pale white long sword has grasped in the palm, sword blade ice glow winds around, points to the grey pupil on deep cool fog, under abyss sovereign, no one matches in the name of sovereign. You say fog sovereign, is the crime of offending. The word smears pure land, is the capital crime that 10,000 die may also not arrive at. Appears your true body, regardless of you or what kind of existence, the Pure Land sanction, this world will not have the place of your taking shelter again. Obediently crouches, submits crime, abyss sovereign sacred heart is benevolent, vertical may not the crime of amnesty, may give the gracious gift. The abyss night pressure makes myriad spirits bow the head sufficiently, but is defeated under rolling several hundred li (0.5 kilometers) deep cool fog, is actually emaciated pitiful nearly. That pair of grey eye pupil presented the slight distortion, fog sovereign laughed, ha 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 ha. If know this sovereign, what comes life land? If know this sovereign, what comes pure land? Now, heavenly astral Tiangong counter must punish this sovereign unexpectedly on the contrary. Pitiful, laughable, ha 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 ha, his voice sound words as contemptuous, words taunt. If know this sovereign, what comes life land, if know this sovereign, what comes pure land. The white elm brow big wrinkle, this without doubt, is his this lifetime has listened to the most preposterous spoken language. All observes profound practitioner as also look at each other in blank dismay, all feels bewilderedly. The desert westerly wind raised the head slightly, before he remembered for several days, when fog sovereign gives him the gracious gift shouted that, this entire abyss world, is this sovereign rescues, how could you repay, how to repay? With just now said, was how close. Really is the utter nonsense. In White Elm heart violent anger, but practicing moderation of abyss night did not allow that he said the extremely dirty spoken language, insane language hence, has not talked too much the necessity. When I rip open your real face, lowers the sanction of pure land. Fog sovereign sends out the word of pitying, the pitiful night of dirty place, also match in front of this sovereign hurriedly. Jung. Pale sword cold light shining, sends out ear-piercing Jung to call suddenly, plummeting cold chi drives back the desert westerly wind by far. The white elm no longer talks too much, body profound light winds around, the body and white sword change let dazzling ice glow that the person does not dare to look straight ahead together, plunders the front huge deep cool fog. But at this moment, the body of white elm sinks suddenly, ice glow uneven including sword also flickers to dissipate. A world strange deathly stillness, all voice sound extinguish suddenly completely. In white elm heart intense shock, this aura. Could it be that, in the innumerable pupils with amazement, above the remote upper air, the stars fall together, brings to make everyone hold the breath completely, in all voiced sound completely sealed terrifying pressure world. In the stars, clearly is a form of person. His silver armor, if the flare star, a shining white such as the palm of jade is surrounding gorgeous and strange star formation, drives layer upon layer the deep cool fog, grasps in the deep cool fog that pair of grey eye pupil. Series, lead, Under that familiar pressure cover instantly, the white elm has received the strength rapidly, the revolution's attacks to defend, protects itself stubbornly, simultaneously loudly exclaimed to his accompanying knight, draws back quickly. Surrounds the palm of star formation to fall into the deep cool fog, changes to 1000 jong 3.33 meters great huge palm shadow instantaneously, the strength of terrifying that moment erupts, fog sovereign the space that as it brutally annihilates. 100 li 0.5 kilometers land, split open innumerable star marks. The 10,000 star light shoot, puts on sky. Wah, in the violent starlight is resounding the sounds of innumerable pitiful yell, profound practitioner that these approach such as was swept across by the hurricane, was all flown to go by the distant bang, the cultivation base weak person causes heavy losses instantaneously. They in the storm stops the body potential difficultly, the line of sight glow of stars as before burns the eye not possible to look straight ahead. That star formation, could it be that is? One of Abyss Night 36 commanding, Yuchi Nangsing. Everyone who, Yuchi Santal, this name, shocks is nearly dizzy. Abyss Night, in the world in the eyes is endless honored existence, because they are pure land the sword and sanction blade of forward. But in Abyss Night has 36 to exist specially, is called 36 to command. They extremely few presently before the person, because they never need to go to forward and sanction personally, but commands numerous Abyss Night respectively, is aloof above ordinary Abyss Night. In the Pure Land position, is next to Abyss Sovereign and 4 great divine emissaries. It is said that Abyss Night 36 command, is Divine Pinnacle Realm cultivation base. Even if commands this status regardless the Knight, solely, Divine Pinnacle Realm, 3 characters, they are still world in the eyes are next to the unsurpassed true God secondary myth without doubt. Now, so legendary exists comes in this unexpectedly, sanction this is starting the strange mighty waves in Abyss personally Fog Sovereign. Yuchi Santal, legendary, South Deep Pool Alpha of Ursa Minor. Not only today sees Fog Sovereign, witnessed God extremely heavenly might of such character unexpectedly. Profound practitioner as excited shivers as voiced sound. Hiss, so the power and influence, does not dare to imagine simply. That should Fog Sovereign, not be torn. Therefore, Fog Sovereign actually is true or false. Is the person in some secretive law false? It looks like in certain legends seriously generally is Fog Sea Abyss Dust. The White Elm had not been shaken far, he floats as situated in the Fog Sea edge, lifts the pupil to look to the front, the corners of the mouth slightly, really, you came personally. Power and influence how terrifying of God extremely strength, but numerous profound practitioner actually no one leaves, even the people of which severe wounds are still toughing it out the far view. They want to take a look, this Fog Sovereign true body, is actually what kind of character, or what kind of existence. The starlight is passing through the deep cool fog, the great pupil that pair belongs to Fog Sovereign has vanished. But, when they were not actually controlled in Jujian Fog Sovereign by Yuchi Santal, but as one. The depressed pain recites, the complexion of White Elm unexpectedly changed. Because of the sound of this depressed pain recitation, clearly seems like. Yuchi Nangsing, bang, bang, bang. The sound of fearful treading place, collapses just like the cracks in the earth day. Starlight passes gradually, the deep cool fog is actually tumbling as before. But a giant shadow, treads slowly from the deep cool fog. This great shadow instantly, terrifying that came from the deep cool fog is peerless as unique cognition, the unique will withstands the limit the pressure on cover, everyone such as by 10,000 mountains pressed on the body, their 4 limbs, 5 main internal organs entrails and even each drop of blood by seal, only had the pupil and soul stubbornly uncontrolled fierce shivering. First ancestor God Qilin, it flings to the great tail of the front, is shackling a human form of eye socket completely crack. The White Elm instantaneous surface no one color, loses one's voice to shout, commands. Exclamation mark quote. Huge space deathly stillness silent, one both are startled before several eye that dull wants to blast open looks the front. Several breaths such as God descends from the sky, raids Fog Sovereign, lowers startles the Knight of prestige of the world to command, he has not carried the Fog Sovereign true body to go out from the deep cool fog, instead was shackled stubbornly, should the heavenly might endless face, performing be the panic-stricken paleness. First ancestor, God Qilin, Yuchi Nangsing is sending out chanting in a low voice of cutting tooth. Rumor, first appearance of Fog Sovereign, side along with first ancestor God Qilin. The legend, first ancestor God Qilin controls to drive a horse for Fog Sovereign. This is his life has listened to the most laughable joke. Even after, rumor about Fog Sovereign is one by one absurd, is less, to controlling first ancestor God Qilin, the eventuality of this rumor. But at this moment, as he of Abyss Night commanding, arrived at nearly the heart and gall disruption unexpectedly panic-strickenly. But compares as with amazement more fearful, is earth-shaking of cognition, even the avalanche of faith. First ancestor God Qilin, one of the Fog Sea Deep Place most fearful abyssal beast. Once profound beast were eclipsed by the deep cool, regardless of what kind of plane, level, how will degenerate into only destruction instinct abyssal beast. To be accused to drive a horse thoroughly, how possibly? Exclamation mark. Moreover, first ancestor God Qilin will only come in the Fog Sea Deep Place obviously, should not appear in the Fog Sea Edge again. Dot 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 dot. Just now he obviously already sensation for a long time, until but he makes a move to fall God extremely heavenly might, has not had the sensation to existence of first ancestor God Kylin slightly. Is that extremely rich abyss dust, lets him, even if strong to divine pinnacle realm spirit sense, cannot touch in the deep cool fog sovereign and existence of first ancestor God Kylin. Hey. His both eyes hyperemia, in the mouth explosive shout, to destroys the world the god extremely strength to erupt fearfully sufficiently violently. In day collapse like power rumbled, the land was shaken to overturn, the white elm was shaken ruthlessly draws back, nearly spits blood. Rear numerous profound practitioner is the chaotic fluttering, the casualty big piece. But, the great tale of first ancestor God Kylin had not actually been shaken slightly, his god extremely strength bang shakes in its body, sends out, is metal collision ear-spitting jung calls, boom, struggling that he goes all out, eruption of power again and again. Kylin armor of body side is appearing a fissure, the great strength that but ties up him has not had from beginning to end, even if tiny bit relaxation, terrifying to letting him gradually despairs. Against the Gods Chapter 2101. The Divine Boundary Realm was originally the 10th level of the Divine Extinction Realm. However, because there are no living beings in the abyss who can rely on cultivation to reach the true God, the 10th level of the Divine Extinction Realm has become the ultimate realm that can be achieved by living creatures in the abyss. That this realm was separated and named the 10th level of the Divine Boundary Realm from the realm of divine extinction was changed to the 9th level, and the divine realm was further divided into 9 smaller realms. Each transition between these smaller realms is similar to the human body trying to approach the path divine apparently can achieve, but feels eternally unattainable. As a result, the 9 realms smaller than the divine boundary realm are the most difficult to enter, but the gaps between them are not as wide and clear as those in the other realms, but this does not mean they can be easily surpassed. Even more so, Wei Chinanzing at the 3rd level of the divine boundary realm facing the 9th peak of the divine boundary realm, the ancestor of the god Kylin, who had a huge body and the advantage of abyss dust explosions, the star formations around him were destroyed repeatedly, then reformed again and again. Every struggle he made was a huge disaster for this world. Crack, a relatively large one finally appeared God's ancestral scales, but before Wei Nanning could catch her breath, she despaired when she saw the crack. It seemed to be healing very slowly. Instead, the backlash from her own power had caused her body and internal organs to be covered in blood spots, even though this was the edge of the misty ocean where the concentration of abyss dust was far away, less than in the depths of this place still included the region of the sea of abyss dust mist that was everywhere, suppressing its spiritual power and perception, while giving the abyss beast boundless strength and vitality. A miserable struggle. The Mist Emperor's voice resounded, again sounding far away yet close in the soul, making Wei Nanxing was momentarily unable to understand the origin. His voice: I have only been awake for a year, never wanting to kill living creatures carelessly, but more wanting to save many lives from the clutches of death, erosion of the dust of the abyss. But for the sake of your own escape, you have slaughtered so many innocent people. Truly you are a knight born from the dirty soil of the holy land built on filth and sin. Every word of the Mist Emperor was a deep blasphemy against the highest faith of the knights. As a wave of anger erupted in Wei Chinan's heart that almost penetrated his skull, his dark energy surged and his eyes sparkled with starlight as he was about to retort, but when his vision brightened, he suddenly froze. Only half of them were afraid. Most of the survivors had injuries. Their faces were filled with oozing blood at the corners of their mouths. But even though they were pushed far away, they still stubbornly approached. As the realization dawned on them, these people had clearly been wiped out by the powerful force of the divine boundary force. That, he explained, his struggle as a person, as a knight. A person must uphold a noble soul, act justly and hate evil, let the right and not slaughter innocent people. And today at this moment, in an instant his heart was destroyed. The power he had accumulated to the maximum limit could not be released anymore. Instead it disappeared quickly at this moment. The Killin god who stood like a mountain suddenly emitted a strange, deep light in his eyes. A tremendous destructive force surged towards his huge tail and erupted mercilessly towards Wei Chenanning. 10,000 thunders exploded simultaneously because it was the sound of divine boundary breaking bones. Nanning Bayu screamed in fear. In his understanding, the abyss beast had no consciousness and hence could not have any plans, but this Killin god who was much stronger than him had taken advantage of the brief moment when he lost focus, delivering a blow which was almost fatal. At that moment he felt his whole body being destroyed, his internal organs burst and his soul collapsed. Bang! With a roar his broken body was hit hard on the ground by the ancestor of the god Killin, but in the end, he was in the divine boundary realm and the recovery of his consciousness and strength was very quickly. The intention to retaliate against the attack was formed when his body touched the ground, but when his strength soared, a heavy force like a mountain hit him again. The explosion of God's claws. Killin had finally stepped on Wei Nansing's body brutally. The ground cracked with countless cracks that stretched hundreds of miles all the way to Swanmo City. All the practitioners nearby were thrown violently into the air, flying far away when the claw was raised. Under its shadow, Wei-Ning's body was already destroyed and covered in blood, but this wasn't the end of his nightmare, just the beginning of the explosion. God's claw blast fell for the second time, directly targeting Wei-Ning's head. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Every blow of the god Killin's claws from the abyss carries the power of heaven and earth, now fiercely trampling Wei Kai Nansing, destroying his broken bones, further mercilessly dragging his life and soul into the abyss of true death. Explosion, 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 explosion for the practitioners nearby. Every strike of the Killin god's claws was tantamount to the toppling of heaven and earth. They found themselves caught in an irresistible dimensional storm. Blood flowed from their 7 orifices, but the screams that should have filled the air were completely drowned out by the incredible roar. Only Bayu was still facing the shaking space, desperately pushing forward. Lord Knight, don't go! Ah! His companion Knight tries to stop him, but is blown far away by the spatial storm. Nansing, the Mist Emperor, stops if you dare. Kill Ah! Beast Knight, the Holy Land will never stop until you die. In his fear, he shouted words that completely ignored the dignity of the Holy Land. The explosion of God's claws fell once again, but when the claws were raised, he didn't attack again, he just floated above Wei Nansing. For so long it gradually stopped calmly. 100 miles away, the practitioners were in a state of chaos but managed to stabilize themselves, but all of them were covered in wounds. Their expressions were filled with endless terror. Wei Chenanning lay helpless on the ground, his silver armor shattered into pieces. Even the dark light on his upper body had completely faded, his body trembling slightly, letting out faint sounds of pain. However, he was one of the 36 leaders of the Abyss Warriors of the Divine Boundary Realm. Even though he had withstood dozens of blows from the ancestor god, he did not perish. The knight's voice, the Mist Emperor's voice, echoed from the depths of the unknown sea of mist. I never wanted to kill living creatures rashly, but you have offended me and you must be punished. Now I will give you a chance to kowtow and apologize to me, and I will allow you and your comrades to leave. Ha ha ha. Even in his weak condition, Wei Chenan sings a low and defiant laugh. In this world only worthy of me, Wei Nansing only bows to Emperor Haiwan. In this world there is only Emperor Huan, while you are not worthy to be called Emperor. Nansing Bu whispered in concern. He understood our will and belief. Kai Nansing was afraid that he would really make the Mist Emperor angry and meet his end here. What a fool you are! Ah, Beast Knight, I ask you, in this world who can be called Emperor? See who is worthy to be Emperor. Wei Chinanzing raised his head slightly. Then answered without hesitation, Ha only Emperor. High when the voice of the Emperor of the Mist resounds. Heard farther and farther to be. The ruler of all time one must. Have faced danger or have. Abilities that surpass the world spirit. The strong one he uttered the answer that. All beings knew of course. It was Emperor Yuan. Without Emperor Yuan there would be no such world. The Mist Emperor's voice was filled with endless disdain and ridicule tinged with a hint of sadness. Stupid understanding pitiful creature. Then answer me, why is all the dust of the abyss concentrated in the misty sea, instead of devouring all the living land, and the so-called pure land? Wei Qinan Sing still answered with difficulty and tenacity, the essence of the misty sea is the influence of Emperor Yuan. Ha ha ha, as if he had heard the biggest joke. The Mist Emperor laughed more wild and mocking than before. So this is your understanding, so this is what you call the Holy Land? And the knights, after his laughter, suddenly stopped, and his voice became heavy like the voice of a devil that reached deep into the souls of everyone present. The ancient abyss of death is the world of death, eternal only me and abyss beast death, who are the children of this world, the world of death. Millions of years ago more and more creatures descended into this world. I could not bear to see them struggle and perish in despair, leaving behind cries of sorrow and despair. Therefore I mustered all my strength to draw all the dust of the abyss to the center until it formed this sea of mist, leaving a thin layer of abyss dust for the creatures that fell into this world, creating a space of hope for endless life. After that I ran out of my strength and fell asleep for a long time, and only woke up more than a year ago. But the space of hope that I created has become dirt, life and holy land of this world, the truth spoken by the Mist Emperor, making everyone feel as if they had heard a nonsense forbidden scripture. Wei Qinan gritted his teeth in anger. How dare you desecrate Emperor Yuan's creation? Before his voice fell, the sky suddenly darkened. The endless dust of the abyss rolled in, engulfing the space where Wei Nanxing was stood up, and within a few moments the dust spread for hundreds of miles, swallowing up the practitioners who were in the distance. The voice of the Mist Emperor echoed in the emptiness of the sea of mist. Now answer me, how the Emperor Yuan you speak of can control the dust of the abyss and control the sea of mist. Mouth of Wei Qinan was wide open, but as he looked towards the swirling sea of mist, he found himself speechless. If he couldn't, how could he open up the land of life in this afterlife? And I could be. Why do you question that? I am the one who condensed the sea of mist and opened a land that could live on. His broken neck repeatedly tried to lift his head. Wei Nanxing's lips moved tremblingly. His desire and belief instinctively urged him to denounce all disrespectful words towards Emperor Yuan, but even though he had the strength to shout, he suddenly felt lost. Emperor Yan's words cannot control the dust of the abyss, and no one can control the dust of the abyss. The greatest intervention that people in this world can do to the dust of the abyss is to disperse and isolate it, at least to this day. This is an ancient and unquestioned understanding of this world. Yet he watched as the Mist Emperor manipulated the dust of the abyss, watched as he covered the vast sea of mist in an instant. This was not hearsay from others, but something he witnessed with his own eyes and felt with his own body. So there was no room for doubt. Now answer one my question again. The voice of the Emperor of the Mist was near, and for Wei Qinan, whose faith was wavering, the words of the Emperor of the Mist instilled a fear he had never felt before, a fear that shook the foundation of his faith. Why do the abyssal beasts of the Sea of K only roam in the Sea of Mist and rarely come out to wreak havoc on your homeland and your holy land? Wei Nanxing opened his mouth this time. His voice was clearly unstable, because the abyss beast was instinctively drawn towards the abyss dust. As that so? The cold mockery still continued, but at that moment all the practitioners, who were already filled with fear, their eyes bulged in horror, their souls were almost torn apart. Above, in the mist of the abyss, huge shadows and ghostly lights appeared, from thousands to tens of thousands. Then the Total number of hundreds of thousands, these were the shadows and eyes of the abyss beasts, closely packed together, blocking out the sunlight, but no roar was heard. There was no sound of pounce. There was only a synchronized appearance, and orderly from the mist of the abyss, as if they were silently looking down at the creatures, trembling in the distance. They had never seen an abyss so tame, but this sight was 1,000 times more terrifying than any danger they had ever faced in the misty sea. Wesenning stopped, shaking completely. The dense yet regular image of abyss beasts reflected in his gaze penetrated his understanding and belief. No matter how ridiculous, no matter how unbelievable it was, they all couldn't help but realize the terrifying fact that these abyss beasts, known only for their instinct to destroy, were under Mist Emperor's control. Now answer me. Again at this moment Mist Emperor's voice is like a devil's whisper in Wei Chananning's soul. Why do the hellish beasts of the Mist Sea only wander inside the Mist Sea and don't wreak havoc in your land of the living and pure land? Answer Wenzing. Don't answer. And neither can he. It seems you as stupid as you are already thought of the answer. The voice of the Emperor of the Mist resounds through the heavens, and the earth penetrates the soul of every creature in this space. Then let me say the answer that is in your heart. The beasts of the abyss in this sea of mist are all my people. The reason they do not leave the sea of mist is because before my long sleep I left an imperial edict in the sea of mist, ordering all abyss beasts not to leave the sea of mist. Based on the imperial edict, both abyss beasts and abyss ghosts, both original subjects and subsequent subjects, they will all obey and will not wreak havoc on the land full of hope that is open to alien creatures. But after awakening from sleep long, I heard that the land I left you has been the reward of the man who called himself Emperor Yan and even built the so-called Holy Land. The voice of Emperor Cab is filled with 1 part anger and 9 parts pity. And now you lowly and pitiful creatures actually want to judge and punish this emperor has bestowed this world of existence upon you against the gods. Chapter 2102. Silently Wei Chananning roared, his voice so sharp and hoarse that even he was shocked. He didn't want to admit it, but the voice in his soul clearly told him that his belief was shaken in the extreme chaos of his emotions and thoughts. He had actually believed it for a while, and even for a moment. It was an unforgivable sin for him. The sound that came out of his lips was not the coldness of a woman who was completely out of touch with sin and filth, but rather a muffled sound of deep panic. In his soul he slowly raised his gaze, trying to clear his eyes, as if wanting the Mist Emperor and everyone to see his unwavering belief. Mist Emperor, how dare you slander the Yuan Emperor like this? How dare you deceive the world with such lies? You have cut off the Holy Land's final tolerance for you slanderous lies. Deceive the world compared to the roar of the abyss night, which is clearly full of emotion. The voice of the Emperor of the Mist remains cold and low, full of condescension. As far as this Emperor knows, you knights have prided yourself on glory and justice. Then answer the question. This Emperor, with his so-called noble spirit and just character, this Emperor can control the dust of the abyss, while Emperor Yuan cannot answer. This Emperor answer the world. Which word here is slander? Which word is a lie? Weinanxing's throat moved, but no sound came. Even the determination that had just risen once in his eyes shattered without a sound amidst the vibrations. The Emperor controlled the dust of the abyss, and this was already common knowledge in the abyss. Whereas the Emperor of the Mist could control the dust of the abyss, and he had seen it with his own eyes. This Emperor could control the beasts of the abyss, while Emperor Yuan could not. Answer this Emperor, answer the world. Which word here is slander? Which word is a lie? Wei Chananning still cannot answer. The clarity he has struggled to regain seen in his eyes once again, turning into a gray mist that confuses a Yuan Emperor who cannot control the dust of the abyss of hell, or the beasts of the abyss of hell, created the Holy Land in this world, while the Emperor who can control The dust of the abyss and the beasts of the abyss of hell in this world has become a sinner who needs to be punished by the Holy Land. Kshatriya has finished answering. This emperor answers. The world who really is correct slandering. Who is lying, who is deceiving the world. Wei Chinanzing's broken arm slowly rises, not to try to stand but to cover his head in pain. No, this is all fake. Stop, say no more. But the voice of the Mist Emperor still clearly sounds in his ears and soul. This world is the world of the abyss. The dust of the abyss is the foundation of this world, and the one who cannot control the dust of the abyss, who is even afraid of the dust of the abyss, dares to call himself emperor, dares to call himself emperor, the creator of this world. What a ridiculous joke. He is the one who really deceived the world with lies, like you said. If he created where life can be called creation, then this emperor is the true creation emperor. In this world a deathly silence fell between heaven and earth, leaving only the voice of the Mist Emperor. None of the profound practitioners in the distance uttered a sound, as if they couldn't even feel the pain from their wounds, because they were listening to a truth that would definitely shock the world. Only the profound imaging stone that had been released earlier emitted a faint and profound light, recording an image that would surely stir the winds and clouds in the heavens, and you knights had acted as cruel, deceitful dogs. The hour came to punish the emperor of creation, who had given you peace but still claiming to be holy and just. The words of the emperor of the fog then dealt an almost fatal blow to Wei Nanzing and Bayu Duak. Kshatriya finished before today. You could also be called fools who were deceived by lies, but now you have witnessed the power of this emperor with your own eyes and heard the truth of this world with your own ears. The savior, and who is the impostor, does not require great insight or a pure soul. Just knowing the most basic common sense in this world is enough to make it clear. Stop, the voice of the abyss night is now almost like the roar of a wild beast. The words of the emperor of the mist are undoubtedly destroying the glory and belief his whole life. But ironically, what he had seen and heard today made his resolve and beliefs waver and shake even more violently. How could he accept? How could he believe? Blood flowed from between Wei Nanzing's tightly clenched teeth as he forced out every word. No matter how hard you tried, seduce us, don't think you can shake our absolute loyalty to the Holy Land and Emperor Yuan. The Mist Emperor's voice is faintly heard. Kshatriya abyss, your words already admit that even after knowing the truth of the world, you still choose to be a dirty and obedient dog of this despicable creature is aristocratic knights of the Holy Land. Your existence has tainted purity and justice into the most disgusting and ridiculous words in this world. Your existence in the eyes of this emperor is the most hypocritical and pathetic in this world. This is the most extreme insult we have ever heard, Nanzing, and since becoming Abyss K. And what is far more terrible than that humiliation is the truth that they see and learn now that you are not worthy of the grace that this emperor bestowed upon you, a gift that made me exhaust my strength and sleep for millions of years. When the voice the Mist Emperor ended, the claws of the ancestral god Kilin that hung above Weaning fell once again, booming. Bo Ming, who had previously experienced dozens of stomps, was injured beyond recognition, but he refused to lose consciousness now. His vision went dark, but this time his soul did not struggle, let alone sinking into darkness and falling into this coma was undoubtedly a miserable escape. If he could choose, he would definitely not come here in person today before he lost consciousness. His strongest wish was for someone to strip away all the memories of today from him, even if it means must eroding part of his soul. Bayu roared the will of a knight. After not allowing him to retreat or abandon his comrades, he instinctively lunged towards Wei Nanzing, who was lying down, but as soon as he got close, another claw of the god of fire struck from the sky. His pupils shrank sharply and the light in his vision immediately dimmed. Before his consciousness faded, he felt as if a 10,000-foot mountain had fallen on his head, and faintly heard screams of fear from his fellow knights, the explosion of Bayu being trampled by the ancestor of the god Killen, almost without any resistance along with Wei Channaning. He stopped moving. The ancestral god Killen's roar roared. All the profound practitioners watching from afar were swept up by a terrifying storm. Then the abyss mist rolled in, covering everyone's sight and blocking all perception within the abyss mist. Yunce's figure stepped forward, slowly standing in front of the claws of the ancestor of the god of Killen. When his two front claws moved away, the two unconscious knights appeared before his eyes. The condition of Wei Nanxing was truly pathetic. His flesh and bones and internal organs had been destroyed by the terrifying power of the god of Killen, but with the strong protection of Divine Boundary Realm. Even with such severe injuries he hasn't died, and with the resources that the Holy Land has, if he returns, it probably won't be long before he gradually recovers to his peak condition. Therefore, if he wants to weaken the power of the Holy Land, now is the right opportunity to destroy this Knight Commander. Yunce stepped forward, his hand stretched out and hovered over Wei Nanxing's eyebrows. His expression gradually turned cold. "I advise you not to do this," a silent voice sounded in his soul. See, at that exact moment, if it was Ada, an ordinary Abyss Knight, even a Divine Extinction Realm practitioner final stage, you may have a high chance of success. But you have to understand, he is a Divine Boundary Realm practitioner. Even though he is in a very broken condition, his body and soul are scary. The results are almost non-existent, and you might even get injured in the process. Yunce's hands don't move. Lisu continued to persuade him. "Today you have summoned so many abyss beasts and abyss dust at once, and you have already reached your limit. Don't take any unnecessary risks. Change your target. Any more abyss knights have had enough." Yunce's hands still don't move. He answers in a low voice. His body has been damaged by the ancestor god Killen, and his soul has been destroyed by the words of the Spirit Mist Emperor, and his soul is destroyed, and he is not as scary as you think. I probably won't fail. His finger landed on Wei Channaning's forehead, and his soul immediately flowed into the other party's soul. See, even though Wei Channanxing was in a coma, instinctive defense from his powerful soul completely repelled the power of Yunce's soul. But just when Wei Channanxing's soul was moved, a silver white light suddenly appeared in the depths of Yunce's flower pupils. It looked like a white flower that was blooming. Its petals were as white as the snow, edges glistened with silver light as it bloomed layer by layer. The flower radiated light brilliantly, like a dream. Yunce's lips moved slightly, uttering a low chant that entered the soul of the archery dream anomaly. Even though Wei Channanxing was unconscious, his tightly clenched teeth slowly loosened at this moment. He was dreaming. Not for him, it wasn't a dream. He woke up. Even though he was seriously injured, he was brought back to the Pure Land safely by Bayu, the Supreme Yuan Emperor. Personally visited him and healed his wounds with his supreme divine power. The High Priest came and told Yuan Emperor that the Mist Emperor had been punished. His true form was just a special hell ghost with consciousness still present. He was very good at hiding in the dark and deceiving people with false words. He even threw away the corpse of the Mist Emperor. Sure enough, it was just a small abyss ghost, jet black and ugly face. Sure enough, all the slander against the Holy Land and Emperor Yuan was wrong as expected. His confidence was still high, his glory was still untarnished. He closed his eyes with satisfaction. His consciousness sank into sleep. All the flowers in Yun's eyes disappeared, turning into a pitch black dragon shadow. The dragon's soul exploded violently. It easily broke through the soul sea of Wei Nanxing, which is almost silent without any resistance whatsoever. Yun Che's heart and soul shook. He raised his hand, and the abyss dust around him immediately swirled like a storm gathered in his hand, then quickly condensed into an abyss mist that deepened between his fingers. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 5 breaths, 30 breaths of sweat dripping from Yunce's forehead like a rainstorm, and his expression gradually became one of pain. Finally, the abyss dust swirl slowly stopped, and a Black light appeared in his palm. The black light was half a foot long. It was darker than the deepest night. It was a narrow line formed by the vast abyss dust from the room in the surrounding concentration of hellish dust. Within it was far beyond what a layman could imagine. Yunus turned his palm and placed this line of dust of the extremely dark abyss onto Wei Nan Sing's forehead, right into the sea of his soul that opened wide in the face of Yunus's seemingly insane series of actions. Sound again, so as not to disturb him in the slightest. As the last trace of black light disappeared on Wei Nanxing, Yunus's forehead took a step back and finally fell to the ground. He was panting, but when he looked up his eyes looked fierce and he laughed mischievously. He slowly raised his arm, which trembling due to exhaustion. He pointed at the silent Wei Qianing, while uttering a low murmur. Mist Emperor, welcome to the Sea of Aa Mist Venerable. No one answered, and he didn't need an answer. Beside Yunus an illusory white shadow slowly appeared. He stretched out a hand, snow white intertwined with light white, poured ancient divine power into him. You were overexerting yourself. No, Yun answered with a smile. I just had enough faith in myself under Lisu divine power. Yun's greatly drained energy quickly recovered, but this relaxation didn't last long before Yun stood up again. As he swinging his arm, keen the fog of the abyss, the rolling ones rush forward. You Lisu want to prevent it. Don't stop me, because I have appeared. This final step must be completed. When Yun steps forward, his body is shrouded in the mist of the abyss. I am the descendant of the evil God Emperor. Yun from the realm of the God Emperor, the mist from the end. I am not as weak as you're worried about, Lisu. Don't speak anymore. Just sigh softly. Swanmo City is already in chaos. The two knights have been dragged into the dust of the abyss, and just as they have perished under the claws of the terrifying ancestor god Kilin, the profound practitioners of Swanmo City are panicking, wailing in sorrow, or trying desperately to escape. A large number of them were still immersed in the words of the Mist Emperor, unable to fully recover at this moment. A cry of warning sounded loudly. Everyone looked towards the west and saw the gray mist that covered the sky rolling towards them, brought the death aura of the abyss dust that was getting closer and closer. This Mai Feng stared blankly at the sky. Almost every moment of this day was an unreal nightmare for him. The turbulent abyss fog gradually stopped, and the eyes of the Emperor of the Fog slowly appeared in the sky, emitting a sound cold and supreme. Mai Feng, Emperors rescue your son's life, bestowed grace upon you, and even extended my protection over the entire Swanmo realm, but you retaliated against the evil with hostility, using this Emperor's grace to help the Holy Land plot against this Emperor. Mo Sifeng's whole body went limp. He fell to his knees while wailing at the Holy Land's command. No one in the world, this bastard, dared to defy him. He stopped there, no longer trying to justify himself, but instead bowed his head weakly. Forget it. Whatever the reason, this action was indeed returning kindness with hostility. Whatever punishment the Mist Emperor handed down, I deserved it and would not complain. The Mist Emperor's voice rang out in amidst everyone's fear. This Emperor never wanted to slaughter living beings indiscriminately, but I also don't want to be betrayed by them. This Emperor gives you 10 breaths to leave this Swanmo realm. After 10 breaths, this world will no longer have a Swanmo realm. Pick 2 points. Question mark and double quotation mark. Meng looked up in fear. At this moment, 2 figures shot out from the mist of the abyss. They were Wei Qianxing and Bu, covered in wounds and apparently already dead. The Knight Commander. 6 desperate servant knights rushed forward to catch Wei Nanxing and Bu, who fell down. Meng also realized something. At this time he suddenly stood up and shouted, retreat. Everyone retreated to the east. 10 breaths of abyss dust fell, instantly covering the Swanmo realm, quickly turning this small holy land into a death zone covered in abyss dust. Soon, the terrifying news will spread throughout the area. After a region at the edge of the Sea of Aa Mist suddenly expands for 500 miles, engulfing the Swanmo realm, turning what was once a paradise for high-level practitioners into a New frontier region of the Sea of Aa missed this time. Yunce is truly running out energy, but he didn't rest. Instead he landed inside the scales of the Dukilin and returned to the depths of the misty sea. With him at high speed Lisu reappeared, recovering his completely drained Yuan energy with the power of the divine light. Why are you in a hurry? Yunce took a few deep breaths before answered in a low voice. The appearance of the Mist Emperor today will be very different from before, when the images recorded by profound practitioners with profound imaging stones spread all over, including the Holy Land and the Kingdom of Gods. It will definitely be greatly shaken. I must return to the dreamweaving Kingdom of God as soon as possible. During time this is to eliminate the possibility of me being associated with the Fog Emperor. Lisu said. One is the erratic and unpredictable Fog Emperor who roams the ocean of fog. The other is the son of the ruler of the gods who lives in the divine kingdom. Dreamweir connects the two of you. You are really excessive. You are right, but being safe is always better than not being safe at all, Yunce said with a gasp. And I did this to be on guard against Hua Qinying. After all, the first appearance of the Mist Emperor and the Kilin God was before his eyes, so with the Mist Emperor's appalling appearance this time, and I'm the clear one in the kingdom of the Dreamweaver God. Even if he was 1,000 times more perceptive with 1,000 wild imaginations, he would never again have the possibility of linking me to the Lisu. Mist Emperor doesn't speak anymore. He is alone and without support in this world. What he did was make the whole abyss enemies and failure are completely unacceptable. Therefore he is very careful, very careful. The abyss core that you planted in the body of the Abyss Knight, are you sure it will not be detected? He asked. Another question. No, Yunce answered with absolute confidence. The abyss dust is an existence superdimensional for people in this world. It can never be detected by the spiritual sense. The world's perception of the abyss dust comes from the feedback generated by the blockage and erosion of the life force and aura of the soul. Therefore, as long as the abyss core hidden in the soul is not released, control is almost impossible for him or anyone else to detect. Lisu softened his voice. But you really pushed too hard today. Why don't you wait a few more years? By then your control over the abyss dust and abyss beasts will definitely be more proficient and strong, and you won't be in such a state like this now. Yun slowly shakes his head. Already building momentum for a year. This period of time is just right to make the Holy Land suspicious and wary, but only a little suspicious and wary, so they will only send knights after the appearance of this Knight Commander is a little unexpected. If I wait a few more years, let the suspicions go and vigilance increased until they took it seriously, it would probably attract the attention of the High Priest himself. If that was the case, I would have no way to respond against the gods. Chapter 2104. In the Divine Kingdom of Eternal Night, 7 layers of profound formations were interlinked and operated with various abyss crystals that released dazzling dark light and intense within the formation. This extremely high number and grade of abyss crystals was enough to make any profound practitioner shocked, as if they were dreamed of 4 women standing in different directions, formations in their hands, swirling the terrifying power of the divine boundary realm. 7 layers of this profound so harsh that it could easily crush a new practitioner had just entered the realm of divine extinction, possessing the body of a demigod. But in the middle of that terrifying profound formation sat a woman with her long hair and outer clothing fluttering erratically. Her extremely beautiful face was changing shape constantly. It was an instinctive reaction to the immense pain. Ordinary, but her expression remained so calm and stubbornly refused to show even the slightest bit of suffering. Gradually her jade-like skin started to lose its color, turning into an unnatural pale hue, and after an unknown period of time, a streak of striking red blood slowly flowed down from her lips. Na sent Wuyuan faltered for a moment, his eyes struggled, and finally he whispered, "Teacher." At this intensity, even a late-stage practitioner of the Divine Extinction Realm would not be able to survive even though Wu He had 9 exquisite bodies. He must have exceeded his limits this time if this continued. Silent hoarse and rough voice without any warmth being heard from Senator Wu Yuluan's plea. If it's time to stop, I'll act alone. Sen Wu Yuluan doesn't dare to speak any further, just continues to maintain the 7-layer profound formation, urging the spiritual energy in the abyss crystal. Sen Wui's cultivation is currently at the 5th level of the divine and storm extinction realm. The spirit energy within the 7-layer profound formation would cause other practitioners in the same realm to experience an explosion of profound veins within the fibers of a breath, resulting in unimaginable consequences. Yet he had survived for this entire quarter of an hour because he had 9 exquisite bodies, a rare existence that known to everyone but very rarely seen in the world. As the small world within him gradually awakened, his profound veins and his body's capacity to withstand powers and laws far surpassed that of ordinary practitioners. Over the past 20 years his cultivation had progressed from the peak of the Divine Master Realm to the 5th level. Natural Divine Extinction's terrifying speed of advancement was something that the other divine kingdoms had vaguely heard of, but no one believed it, and moreover no one knew of the cruel methods it used to achieve such advancement. Sen Wu Yanyi had crazily piled up all the top resources of the kingdom's eternal night divine. To Sen Wui, the amount of abyss crystals consumed in the same period of time is more than all the other sons and daughters of God combined. But the process is something that no other son and daughter of God can imitate or endure. Sen Wu Yan is truly crazy in all cases. This is something known to all people in the kingdom of gods and the kingdom of God of eternal night understood it deeply. A quarter of an hour passed and Sen Wui's face didn't show the slightest color. Every part of his body would occasionally convulse more intensely, but his expression remained as if he didn't feel any pain or fear at all. Long closed, his eyes couldn't bear to look at it at this moment. Senui's body finally started shaking violently. Several long lines of blood split across his waist and heart, and his breathing completely became chaotic at that moment. Panting, his consciousness scattered, a mist of blood sprayed from his lips as he slowly fell backwards. A withered hand stretched out from the black tira, and in an instant the dark light from the 7-layer profound formation was extinguished. All the spiritual energy closed completely and vanished without a trace. Wei Sen Wu Yu Luan shot forward, catching Sen Wui in her arms. After a while she finally saw Sen Wui's eyes regain focus. Basic human rights are useless. Sen Wuyanya's cold and piercing voice sounded. The so-called 9 exquisite bodies are nothing more than this. Listen. Before heading to the Holy Land you must step into the 6th level of the Divine Extinction Realm, otherwise I woe and forgive you. Sen Wu Yuan averted her gaze, wanting to say something but feel Sen Wui squeezed her hand gently, stopping her words before they could come out. With difficulty Sen Wui rose from Sen Wu Yuluan's arms. Her voice was weak but still respectful and firm. Mother God has poured all her resources and heart into me. If I disappoint her I will not be able to forgive myself. Good you know that, Sen Wu Yanyi said coldly. Go down and rest. Come back in 7 days. But Sen Wui answered softly, Mother God, don't worry. I will be ready in 5 days. He looked up. His weak voice carried an obsession that seemed to come from the bottom of his heart. Mother God don't want women in the world to be under men. In the Holy Land I will definitely defeat all the children of God, make them all crawl under the kingdom of eternal night. Only then can I fulfill Mother God's wish and repay her kindness. So Mother God doesn't need to worry about my body. This may fall, but Mother God must not be let down. As her words finished, her body swayed. Blood once again flowed from her lips and she fainted in Sen Wuan's arms. Deathly silence. After a few breaths, Senator Wu Yanyi finally spoke coldly. Yuluan, bring her back. Yes. Sen Wu Yuan quickly answered and hurriedly carried Sen Wui, who was Unconscious, all of you went out with an agitation of his terrible voice. The holy god of eternal night was left with no one to return to the suffocating silence. The withered hand groped in the darkness, opening the secret book for a few moments. Then after several months another layer of abyss dust was carefully removed so that another page of the book of secrets could be turned with his dry fingers, gently touching his sharp senses, recognizing the ancient characters. Still covered in a thin layer of abyss dust, a heart of snow-covered glass. This page contained note about glass heart. Snow-covered glass heart condensed from the purest mordial energy at the beginning of chaos. The purest and purest soul in the world is rumored to receive protection from heaven, knows the truth. Law is able to understand heaven and earth, can feel the hearts and souls of all beings. His heart is pure as ice and snow, most pure, as clean as shiny glass, untainted. Therefore, his affection, his feelings, his heart's intentions, his thoughts, once written, he will remain unshakable until death. Never betrayed. His withered fingers began to tremble. He made a sound that almost sounded sad. His feelings, not shaken until death. Never betrays. Where is true affection? In this world what loyalty is left? In this world everything is fake, ridiculous, everything is fake. He laughs crazy laughs. His laughter sounds like a crazy ghost, but his wrinkled cheeks are filled with endless tears. After carrying the penny, Wui returned to her room. Sen Wu Yuan didn't stop for a moment. She hurriedly took out some healing pills, then immediately set up a profound healing formation. A deep soft light enveloped her and saw Sen Wui's face as pale as paper. Sen Wu Yu Luan slowly closed her eyes in despair. Hope suppresses the uncontrollable dampness. I'm sorry. He calmed himself. Wu you are awake. I am always awake. Sen Wui answered softly. I made you worry. Snan Wuan was clearly shocked, then said naturally, being aware is the best way to speed up your recovery. What I said before was just rambling. You don't need to think about it. I know what Sen said. Wu Yi softly. Just as Sen Wuyuan was about to breathe a sigh of relief, she heard Sen Wui continue. I always knew that the person who saved me back then was Aunt Yuluan. Like the sound of thunder, Sen Wu Yuluan suddenly standing up in her panic. She forgot to reach out to put up a soundproof barrier. However, Sen Wui seemed to have anticipated her reaction, gently pressed her arm as she raised her hand. She was too weak, causing Sen Wu Yuan to immediately stop her movements. If you put up a soundproof barrier, it would alert her. She should be reading a secret book at the moment. Auntie needn't worry. Sen Wu Yuluan's eyes widened, his eyes staring blankly at Sen Wui as if seeing him for the first time. Then he lowered his voice loudly. Wui, such words cannot be said lightly. He left the profound healing formation and stepped back. Focus on healing. I will treat what new. Just say it as if I've never heard it, and you mustn't say a word about it. In this world even the darkest night will eventually turn into dawn. 1. Back. Sen Wu Yuluan's body trembled. Her teeth were clenched tightly, but she couldn't stop herself. Her neck turned, but halfway she stopped with difficulty, because at that moment she suddenly didn't dare to look into Sen Wui's eyes. After an unknown time, she finally turned around. With he had difficulty seeing Sen Wui, gently raised her finger, touching her lips, gesturing to him that there was no need to say anything. Sen Wu Yuluan nodded slowly, and suddenly tears flowed like a fountain. The combination of all the previous incidents, and when the practitioners finished uttering the words of the Mist Emperor, there was no longer the hesitation of debate or ridicule like before, but instead the fear of unprecedented shock and unspeakable heartache. That even every speck of dust of the abyss seemed to be in abnormal agitation. Just Land, the saint who remained calm as before, without any clouds or strange movements whatever. Everyone had anticipated in the misty shallow sea. Yunce had changed his appearance and clothes. His aura was gloomy under the rock of the inverted ravine at this moment. Even if Hua Chaili passed by, he would not be able to recognize him from her appearance or as she had maintained the Same posture for almost 8 or 9 hours and the same actions had continued. For more than 10 days. Finally she opened her eyes, took a deep breath, and leaned heavily on the black rock. Behind her a white shadow appeared, a jade-covered hand. Divine light reached Yunce's forehead, bestowing upon him the most sacred profound light in the world. 12 days, he said softly. What exactly are you seeking? You do this every day, even your soul will find it hard to bear. Yunce closed his eyes in silence for a few moments. The feeling of deep tiredness finally subsided, but he didn't respond to Lisu's question. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, 12 days. And you still haven't scolded me? I'm more curious than you scolding you. Lisu was confused why Yunce tilted his mouth slightly and said, to show that the Mist Emperor can control the power of the Sea of Aa Mist, I caused the people of a land to lose their homeland forever. I wonder how many will suffer death from the erosion of the dust of the abyss because I, with your pure heart, you definitely cannot accept this and should have scolded me long ago. Lisu was silent enough. It took a long time until Yunce closed his eyes again, ready to sleep for a while. He heard your voice, as light as a cloud. You are too lonely. Yun looked at the vague figure in front of him, whose appearance was unrecognizable. Not at all. Aren't you always here with me? Lisu answered softly. I'm not Heling. I'm not can know your heart like he follows your will and comforts your soul as he does. After all, I cannot incarnate into a physical body like a Heling and appear to comfort you when I feel your loneliness and your soul's wounds. Therefore, in the face of your unresolved loneliness and your soul's wounds, I can only feel ashamed. Can't afford to scold you. Yun stretched out his hand subconsciously, rubbing his nose. His voice was a bit weak. The comfort you talked about shouldn't be what I thought. Kunlu, Against the Gods, Chapter 2105. Even though Yunce couldn't see her lisp's expression clearly, she could still feel her confusion. Clearly, it's okay, it's just a casual comment. Yunce immediately calmed down and became serious. Then she suddenly sighed. You're really unlucky to have fallen into my hands, goddess of creation, dignified the most merciful and holy creature between heaven and earth was forced to accompany me in this terrible world, to do evil deeds. If you can regain all the knowledge and memories of your past, you may want to use your divine power to turn me into smoke and dust. Lisu, hands pausing for a moment as he answered softly, I vaguely remember some of my old acquaintances, but I can't remember what I looked like before, and now my emotions, my understanding in the world I see, all come from you. I've been lonely for a long time, so I'm afraid of loneliness. Your presence has allowed me to escape what feels like endless loneliness. Because of that, I can feel that my soul is close to you and grateful to you, but since you came to this world, the emptiness of your soul only increases with each passing day. Stop. No need to talk anymore. Yunce hurriedly interrupts his soft voice. When this is me, the Emperor of the Mist that shakes the whole abbey, is so majestic and amazing, I just have a little emptiness in my heart, and you still want to bring it up. The brilliant divine light still shines warmly, endlessly. Lisu seemed to ponder for a moment before saying softly, I will learn to fix it. Yun raised her eyes with a little surprise, then suddenly smiled. The feeling of loneliness that he couldn't get rid of from Lisu's perception seemed to be slightly lifted. Finally arrived Northern Gods territory. Yama Demon Realm, Bone Sea of A Euro Eternal darkness. Black fog enveloped this place. Even though all the demon crystals of eternal darkness had long been removed by Yunce, the darkness here remained the densest in the world. Chiwiao had been there for several hours without any demon accompanying him. In front of him stood a black stone slab that he almost never left. These days torn apart with a ripping sound. The barrier was torn apart violently, and snow-white ankles fell into Siviao's line of sight. He raised his gaze and said somewhat helplessly, why are you here again? Ali Ali became the Brahma god Emperor Kiy. Yinger was about to speak but was interrupted. By Qiuyao, no need to talk. There is no news about him and you should know that he has no way to send a message, but Qianye Yinger still refuses to give up. Didn't you say you share a part of the soul Nirvana demon with him? At least it was the soul of the Nirvana demon Emperor, so it should unfortunately not work. Glanced at the stone slab in front of Qiuyao and said in annoyance, you specially came to the Sea of Immortal Bones just for this broken stone slab. It would have been a long time ago if there really was a secret hidden there. You should have found it by now. Sivio shook his head softly. Even though my nirvanic demon soul can resonate with it, I can still feel that there is something hidden in it. During this time, I have tried dozens of methods and changed many environments, but I still didn't find anything. Qi Yinger crossed her arms and said casually, just because you got it at the place you got the demon soul Nirvana doesn't mean it's definitely related to the demon clan Nirvana. If you really can't let it go, why not try destroying it? If it's useful, then. If not, then there's no need to think about it, and we can forget about it. I know it's not a good suggestion. Qiuyao smiled faintly. It's indeed a big possibility, not something from the Nirvana demon clan. And the 3 Paniao Dai characters on it are the proof that I can't forget. As why is it that such a stone inscription that most likely does not belong to the Nirvana demon clan is on the remains of the demon soul Nirvana, and very well maintained? As he spoke, he suddenly raised his gaze. His demonic eyes shone with a strange light as he stared at Qianye Yinger. Qianye Yinger hem. Qianye. He stretched out his hand. His fingertips touched Qianye Yinger's snow-white finger. I need to borrow your blood for a moment. Qianye Yinger was shocked but didn't fight. A drop of blood dripped down his fingertip and was lightly splattered by Sivio onto the black stone inscription of the words Qianye Yinger. Suddenly reminded him that Qianye Yinger has the blood of the demon emperor given by Yunce in the past. The heaven-shaming demon emperor has the purest dark energy among the 4 demon emperors. His demon blood can absorb all the dark energy that exists in the world, and the demon calamity magic that is released through the blood of the heaven-shaming demon emperor can strengthen all other dark powers, including the powers of the 3 demon emperors. The soul of the Irana demon cannot resurrect objects. Then what about the blood of the heaven-shaming demon emperor? Buzzes the moment the blood drop touches the stone slab. The slab suddenly emits a layer of dark light. The deaf one, Qiuyao, managed, who previously didn't have much hope, to let out a low exclamation. And Qi Yinger's lips opened in surprise. A dark light swirled around the stone steel, and after a while it seemed that something had collapsed on the steel. Then a bright light reflected, projecting an extraordinary clear ancient scene. Qiuyao's projection and Qianye Yinger exchanged glances. Both of them saw the shock and seriousness in each other's eyes. In the projection, there was a dark land. Even in the distant past, one could still feel the power of a demon that shook a woman's soul. A black-dressed man appeared in the projection, even though his face could not be seen clearly. Only his figure and the boundless elegance he radiated naturally would not make anyone doubt his mesmerizing beauty. Another figure appeared in the projection. A man in a blue robe with hair like the dark night and eyes like an abyss deep. His appearance was very charming. When he raised his gaze, the light reflected in his eyes was the light of arrogance that seemed to ignore the world, but when it met the woman in black, the light immediately turned into a calm and serene pool. The woman in black stopped her steps, then knelt on the ground with an expression. The man in the blue robe froze. Then the endless authority and pride turned into panic, which confused Sudi. What are you doing, brother Ni? I beg you, please help me. The woman spoke her words in Uhi with tears. The man in the blue robe hurriedly stepped forward, wanting to help her up. But the woman remained on her knees, and she was at a loss for words. You don't cry. Whatever happens, I will help you. Please get up. But the woman refused to stand up because she knew how selfish and excessive her request was. The heaven-destroying god emperor he want to killing. Brother Mosu heard the name Mosu. The blue-robed man's pupils trembled. For a moment the heaven-destroying god emperor wanted to personally sink Brother Mosu into the abyss of nothingness. He had announced this to the entire god race using the voice of divine decree. The heaven-destroying god emperor was very stubborn and never went back on his words, especially when announcing it with the voice of the divine decree. Just now the heaven-destroying god emperor had brought Brother Mosu to the brink of existence. He would die, he would truly die. The woman's voice brought bone-piercing pain to the eyes of the blue-robed man. It lost its color and he said weakly, "It was a matter of the god clan." Moreover, the heaven-destroying god emperor was so powerful. He wanted to execute his own son, and no one could save him. Moreover, this is none of our demon race's business. He wanted to say that Mosu was the strongest god of the younger generation in the god race, and if Mosu died it would benefit the demon race, who was at odds with the god race. But facing the woman whose heart fell into the abyss and felt unbearable pain, he finally couldn't say it. There was no way to save her. The woman knelt forward, holding tightly the man in the blue robe. "As my brother, beg you to lend me the Nirvana Devil Pearl. With the panning void mirror in my body I can use the Devil Pearl to forcibly stop the flow of time. And with the void mirror, even if it is in the hands of the heaven-destroying god emperor, I can definitely save Brother Mosu." The man in the blue robe staggers, cried, "Seodai, are you crazy? Do you know what you are saying? He is the god of destruction, heaven, the most powerful and unyielding god of creation. In the god clan, do you know what the consequences will be if you fail? If the void mirror of our demon clan falls into the hands, the god clan's consequences are unimaginable, and you will become the eternal sinner of the demon clan just for the sake of a son of the god clan. I am indeed crazy, but the sound of tears falling even after all this time is still clear enough to break a person's heart. He is Muku, I can't ICA. Until he looked dead. I couldn't look into the eyes of the blue-robed man. He looked dazed. The young man he knew and admired had a tenacity and arrogance that surpassed all the men of the devil clan. His temper was even as fierce as devil flames. Yet now, for the sake of a man of the god clan, he knelt before him, crying bitterly, "It's so heartbreaking. You should ask your father." The blue-robed man's voice slowly turned painful. The black-clothed woman shook her head. "Father never accepted it. He would never agree. He even wanted to imprison me. If it wasn't for the void mirror, I wouldn't have any hope of escaping. You know him won't accept it. Even if you can save him, what will happen to you in the future?" The black-clothed woman muttered, "I have promised her, if heaven and earth allow, we will work to break through the shackles and trials. What if heaven and earth ultimately don't allow? We will escape from this world and strive to build the heaven that belongs only to us." The blue-robed man's body trembled. "I will take him back to the demon clan. If my father doesn't accept him, and the demon clan doesn't accept him, I will strip him of his divine power, so he will never be a threat to the demon clan, and I will keep him by my side forever. If he is still unacceptable, we will muster all our strength and go to the distant lower realms to look for a place where no one can find us." The blue-robed man slowly closed his eyes. His expression was a mixture of pain and struggle. The Nirvana Devil Pearl wasn't just the strongest time magic artifact from my Nirvana demon clan, but also the demon race's precious artifact. Must absolutely not be lost. I can't give it to you, big brother. Don't say anything else. The blue-robed man suddenly turned around. His voice was full of intensity. "Absolutely impossible. Even just the back." The black-clothed woman, who was seen as her aura dimmed, Chiuyao and Kiani Yinger, seemed to see her eyes lose all color. She knelt in silence for a long time, and finally she slowly stood up. Her voice was weak. "I'm sorry, brother Ni. I made too selfish a request. In the future, please take care of yourself and never repeat my mistake." As her words finished, She suddenly turned around but her arm was gripped tightly. What are you going to do? The gaze of the blue-robed man's eyes. It looked so ferocious. Are you going to save him with just a void mirror? The black-clothed woman's voice is gentle yet firm. Where he lived. That's where I lived. That's where he died. That's where I died. The man in the blue robe turned his head and after a long time he extinguished the pain in his eyes and said in a deep voice, I just said, I can't give you the devil's pearl. But I didn't say I am not going to helping you. He raised his hand and a devil pearl surrounded by a strange black light appeared in his palm. You are not one of my Nirvana devil clan, so you can only control that devil pearl, much less than I can, so I will accompany you. The black-clothed woman turned to stare blankly towards the blue-robed man, then gently closed his eyes. Thank you, brother, your kindness to me I will never be able to repay in this life. That gentle voice full of tears reached his ears, but the blue-robed man's expression suddenly changed, because he found that he was not can move again, and even his profound energy cannot be released. This cage is the space of the void mirror. Panming Seodai, what are you doing? The woman in black reached out and took the devil pearl shrouded in black mist from the hand of the man in the blue robe. Shaodai, don't do anything stupid. Men's pupils. The blue-robed woman's voice grew louder. Her voice was filled with endless fear. Let me go. I promised to go with you. Let me go. The woman in black slowly backed away. Her voice sounded sad. I know what I did was wrong. But whatever happens, I can't see her buried in the abyss. This nothingness is my sin and his sin, and I can't involve you in it. He turned his cheek towards the stone projection. This projection has recorded everything that just happened, whether I succeeded or failed. This can prove that the devil's pearl has been taken from you, and everything has nothing to do with you, big brother Ni. I will be back soon, and then I will apologize to you together with Sis Mosu and accept your punishment. With a wave of his black sleeve, the space opened without a sound and he stepped in. Then his figure disappeared in a flash. A crack in the space disappeared without a sound, as if nothing ever existed. Shaodai, someone comes quickly. Father is tired. Old Niwan. Shaodai is in danger. Someone comes quickly. Quickly go to the god realm Teku to save Sudai. The last image of the projection is the almost desperate scream of Prince Nirvana. The projection disappears, but the reaction of Wyao and Kia Ny Ying are very different. One fool in love and one fool in love. Kianya Yinger curled her lips in disdain. This perfectly preserved thing from ancient times was actually just a ham. She realized the expression Chuyao, unusual, and suddenly frowned. Demon Queen, do you have any discoveries? Siviao sighed softly. Her voice was heavy. Void Mirror Demon Pearl Crew's guesses all came true. She couldn't help but think about what kind of heart Nirvana's crown prince had when he sealed the projection. This in the stone steel came true. What does it mean? That K. Yinger's mood also became heavy. That means Iuo stretched out his finger to gently touch the three characters Paniao I on the black stone steel. It means that Yun's opponent in the afterworld is the son of God Pensip, and it was the son of the creator god who held the two most powerful magic artifacts. Qi Yinger's beautiful eyes widened in fear, unable to speak for a long time. Key figures from the past and the woman in black in the Mosu projection, the son of the emperor, the god of destroying heaven. Mo and the lover, Panshaodai, the reverse wheel pearl of the devil. Nirvana Nemo Nilanzu, powerful time-based devil artifact. The mirror of emptiness. Panming Posajing, artifacts capable of manipulating space.